Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brothers and sisters. Well, a welcomed comeback for Champions of Champions boxing talk, I must say. For the big one. You know, it's been years in the making. These two guys are way past the primes. Way past the primes. I mean, come on. Years and years. We've even seen Pacquiao and Mayweather before these guys. You know, I think it even took shorter to make Lewis and Tyson happen than these guys. You know, are we really hyped for this fight? Do I really want to see this fight? Of course I want to see this fight. And so do you. You know you do. All these people complaining. I agree with, Hatman Boxing. Check his channel out when he says that everybody's complaining, but come fight night, there will be a lot of eyeballs that suddenly say, maybe I'll order after all. Boxing is just that tantalizing sport, isn't it? It's not just about fighting. It's about charisma, sportsmanship, personalities, salesmanship. It all comes together in one package that makes people not always think rational. We just go out there and think, right, okay. We said the same with Pacquiao Mayweather. I know that fight ended an absolute dud. It wasn't exactly the best. It was an ugly fight to watch, let's just say. And we waited 5 years, and I remember a lot of people at the time saying, oh, God, now? I don't think so. On the weigh-in, 2 days before that fight, people were starting to book on Box Office to see it. Trust me, I remember. What did it end up doing? Breaking all records. Now, I'm not saying this fight's going to do that, but it already did do some things, like sell out in minutes, the Manchester Arena, and it was at record speed. So this is going to sell, guys. This is going to sell. And there will be a lot of people that have a change of heart at the last minute that buy this fight. So you've got all of that. Now, because I've been watching boxing a long time, I know my instincts anyway. So I never denied that I wasn't going to watch this fight, to be honest with you. But I did think, there could be two scenarios in this fight. And let's hope that this scenario... I'm going to give you two scenarios, let's just say. And let's hope the second one is better than the first. There was a fight on the Pacquiao-Ugas undercard. Robert the Ghost Guerrero against Vicious Victor Ortiz. Now, years ago, if somebody would have mentioned this fight from a stylistic point of view to me, I'd have thought it would have been absolute classic. Gatti Ward. Two guys that like to fight, like to punch. There's plenty of drama. You don't know what's going to happen. Years ago, if you'd have offered me that fight, I'd have thought, wow, that's going to be a classic. It's going to be brilliant. It was an absolute dud. The two guys got in the ring. They both didn't look sharp anymore. They both looked past the prime, didn't have the fitness. And in moments when they were fatiguing, they were just grappling. It was more like a very bad UFC match. That's one scenario. You also get the scenario where you get two legends that have lost a bit of pace, lost a bit of speed, maybe lost a bit of punch resistance, and they can't get out of the way of each other. And actually, because the defense is shot, because the legs are gone a little bit, but they still have maybe the last thing to go, which is power, and maybe some hand speed, the fight ends up a classic. We're seeing Derek Chisora as an older guy, and he's never been known particularly for his defense. But because he is, shall we say, degrading more and more as he gets older, he's having to stand there and trade even more, and it makes it even more entertaining when you watch him fight. So I am hoping that this fight doesn't look like Robert Guerrero v. Victor Ortiz. I'm not thinking it will, to be honest with you, but I just hope it doesn't look that way. There are two scenarios in my mind. This is two fights, basically, to me. I mean, people say, is it as simple as that? Well, maybe not, because boxing can surprise you. But I think in this case, Amir Khan v Kell Brook, I think there are two matches and two possible outcomes. And I think many people know what they are. I'm just going to explain the obvious right here. They're exciting possibilities. But I do think it literally does read like a movie script. Now, Kell Brook was stopped by a punch from Terence Crawford in the 4th round of their fight. That Kell Brook, never in a million years, a couple of years ago, would you think that Kell Brook, who was taking punches by Gennady Golovkin, wasn't knocked out, by the way, was stopped on his feet, and Errol Spence didn't stun him like that either. Kell Brook couldn't carry on, but he was still lucid, he was still conscious. It was a TKO rather than an absolute knockout. But the second that shot landed, I think Crawford was surprised. It was almost like Amir Khan describes it as like a short jab that stunned Kell Brook. And again, Crawford looked stunned that he'd stunned Kell Brook with that. I think that Crawford just thought that that would just set up a shot to set up, a counter punch. Or maybe, I don't know, a power punch of some kind. I don't think Crawford thought in a month of Sundays that a jab so innocuous as that would literally rock Kell Brook to his boots, as Jim Watts used to say. But it did. Now, Kell Brook was always known for being able to take a punch. The Carson-Jones fights were wars. Again, as I said with Golovkin, with Sean Porter. Now, Terence Crawford is a slow starter. He sort of, grabs a load of data, figures his opponent out, then starts to go to work after rounds 2 and 3 and 4, etc. Amir Khan is a fast starter. I know Terence Crawford beat Amir Khan, but Amir Khan is a very dangerous fighter early. And he won't be throwing jabs, or he won't be aiming to throw jabs at Kell Brook early. There will be fast power shots coming Kell Brook's way. Now, years ago, although Amir Khan has had the better career and for me is overall the best fighter, you put each fighter's body of work together, Amir Khan comes out the winner in my opinion. No matter what happens on Saturday night, Amir Khan to me has achieved more in boxing. So I have to rank him above Kell Brook. He just seems to have took more chances at the top level. Wins against Madana, Collazo, Devin Alexander, Paulie Malignaggi. The way he sensationally took out Zab Judah. Zab Judah was overwhelmed, right? His win against Kotelnik. With Kell Brook, you can only name a certain amount of marquee names he's beaten, but with Amir Khan, there is quite a few. There is much more there, much more of a body of work. Having said that, I always thought that Kell Brook, stylistically, had the beating of Amir Khan. And why is this? Because earlier on, although Kell Brook is very stiff up top, the head movement for me is questionable. It always has been. He looks like... he's as stiff as an ironing board at times. There isn't much upper body movement to avoid Amir Khan's fast hands. But I think Kell Brook would have absorbed a lot of those shots early. And Amir Khan being a front runner, and his style of fighting, his rhythm, is fast but predictable. And eventually, like what happened to him with, say, guys like Danny Garcia, I think Kell Brook will time him as the fight wore on. And possibly would stop him. See, Kell Brook is the bigger guy, presumably the stronger guy when they were both in their prime. That would play a major key for me. That is how I saw it going years ago. Kell Brook absorbing shots from Amir Khan. To be honest, a lot of the shots from Amir Khan bouncing off a mixture between Kell Brook's guard and his face, basically. But eventually Amir Khan, tiring, his volume, his tempo dipping and his concentration starting to dip and eventually making mistakes and Kell Brook timing him with power shots. That was always a scenario I could see in this fight. Maybe Kell Brook investing jabs to the body, whatever he could early, and it taking the steam out of Amir Khan's legs as the fight wore on. Here's the problem now. And I saw Kell Brook beating, if they fought prime for prime, Amir Khan within, 6 to 8 rounds stoppage. Now, here's the problem. Everybody talks about Amir Khan's chin, but we've seen Kell Brook's punch resistance just go against Terence Crawford. If Amir Khan, and they always say a really good fighter always has one great night left in him. If Amir Khan can produce 4 or 5 top quality rounds, which is possible. He's not 100 years old. Yes, he's 35 coming up, but he's not 135. If he can condense the best of himself, a mirage of himself, shall we say, in 5 rounds, put the speed, the combinations, the snap, the power he has got into those 5 rounds, I'm not so sure anymore if Kell Brook could absorb them shots. Case in point, I'm not saying Phil LaGreco is, shall we say, Terence Crawford II. Not in a month for Sundays. But Phil LaGreco took Errol Spence and Sean Porter very far in rounds when he fought them. Very far. Took a lot of punishment. In fact, I think he went the distance with Sean Porter and was only stopped late by Errol Spence, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me in the comments down below if I am. But he was completely overwhelmed early by Amir Khan. Overwhelmed and taken out in 1 round. Not even Sean Porter and Errol Spence could do that with Phil LaGreco. So Kell Brook, he needs to be on his game defensively. They have to prepare for something because I don't think Kell Brook can trust his chin anymore. I don't think Kell Brook can go in there and think, right, I'll just take what he's got. He's going to slow down and I'm going to brutalise him as the fight goes on. Don't think that's going to happen this time. Kell Brook has to fight with a veteran's mind. He can't fight anymore like he used to. Unnecessary shots must be avoided. How does he do this? The guard's got to be high. He has to have some upper body movement. He has to. Early on, he's going to have to. And as Khan comes in, he's going to have to fire to the body. Just make sure he touches that down there. Just touch. Don't really worry about winning rounds that much early. Just get some investment in those body shots when you can. Maybe tie Khan up early. He's the bigger guy. Maybe he will take some of the steam out of Amir Khan. But if he lets Khan get some momentum, if Kell Brook is stunned early, Amir Khan will finish him off. He'll go for the jugular. And I think Khan's going to attempt to do this. Right? If Kell Brook survives the early rounds, well, you might just get... This is again where the second scenario comes in. This is really 2 fights. It probably always was, but more so now. This is where the second scenario comes in. Does Kell Brook still have what it takes? It's been a long time, since we've seen him go 12 rounds as well. It's been a long time since Khan's fought, right? But can Kell Brook then, as the fight wears on, can he start to time Amir Khan and piece him up with precision punches and sharpness and timing? Because all we've got to do, and Samuel Vargas was taken out by Conor Benn recently, very quickly, but he survived early onslaughts from Amir Khan. He nearly ended up at points in that fight like Phil LaGreco, but he got through the whirlwind, the tornado, shall we say. And then he dropped Amir Khan. And he gave Amir Khan a very bruising, tough night's work. Go watch that fight back. And what does Phil LaGreco land? What shot does Phil LaGreco land? The same punch that knocked Amir Khan out via Canelo Alvarez. Kell Brook might be studying that punch. Let's just say that. Amir Khan made the same technical mistake as well. As his focus was going, as the front runner sort of paced off, he kind of threw a lazy jab, put it out there, and left himself to the side wide open. That's how Canelo Alvarez got him. That's how Sammy Vargas got him. If Sammy Vargas was a bigger guy, Amir Khan would have been knocked out there again. Right? If another top welterweight at the time, a Keith Thurman, again a Terence Crawford, even a Manny Pacquiao at that point, Amir Khan would have been knocked out there. That is a flaw he hasn't corrected. And this is years after. You would think being iced by Canelo Alvarez would, iron out those creases in the shirt. But it hasn't. It hasn't. And it shows up more in Amir Khan as the fight goes on. That's the problem with him. But that's what makes him also exciting. It's either you or him. You are going to see dazzling speed. I'm sure he can still, for at least 6 to 9 minutes, put some vintage stuff in there, which Kell Brook is going to have to be seriously prepared for. And here's the thing. You can prepare for technical things, right? You can go over everything in the gym. You can tick all the boxes, right? But you can't give someone natural reflexes. You can't. They're born with them. Those fast twitch muscles, you either have them or you don't. This is why Muhammad Ali is unique. This is why Pacquiao was unique. This is why Amir Khan, has a uniqueness to him. If Kell Brook's reflexes are not there, he's in deep, deep waters. He's in deep trouble. And he's in danger of not being able to swim out of the ocean before the shark gets him. The shark might get him. Right? The punch resistance of Khan has always been bothersome, even from the very beginning. But the punch resistance from Kell Brook now is questionable. Very questionable at this moment in time. How are both guys psychologically looking? See, Kell Brook, I've heard that the face-off, the gloves-off session that they had, Kell Brook was looking very tense and sort of too angry. But that was recorded a while ago, guys. People have had time to talk to Kell Brook, his trainer, etc. But Kell Brook has to steady himself. This is chess, not checkers. This is boxing, not war. The greatest warriors are the greatest thinkers. Kell Brook has to think in this fight. That's how you beat Amir Khan. You think against him. You don't get into the storm with him. Kell Brook can't afford to lose his... He has to be cool, calm and collected. Let's just say that. Come fight night, he has to be lucid with it. And the best preparation is in sparring and training. Then he has to go out there and just be the same Kell Brook. Be the best Kell Brook. Be Kell Brook. Not change anything else. I've been there. Well, I've not been there in a boxing match, but I've done marathons where I've trained a certain way and then turned up on the day and thought, I'll change this up. By God, it cost you come mile 20. Stick to what you've prepared for. Don't let the mind games get to you. Because I've heard loads of quotes all over the internet from Amir Khan is living in Kell Brook's mind rent-free. Well, he's going to make Amir Khan pay for that rent come fight night, right? That should be the objective. He needs to put away the animosity and focus on winning a boxing match. That is the key. Especially when you're a guy that is, fairly quick, has quickness of hand, has accuracy, but relies on timing. That means you have to be a computer. You have to be thinking. You can't be confused and befuddled and get reckless. That's not your style. So he has to be composed. Amir Khan, for me, needs to put it on Kell Brook like he put it on Zab Judah early, years ago. That's the way. That's the key for me, for Amir Khan. Who wins this fight ultimately? Well, as I said years ago, Kell Brook for me would have eventually stopped Amir Khan, because I don't think Amir Khan's punches would have taken Kell Brook out. I think Kell Brook's punch resistance and his physical strength would have been able to absorb what Amir Khan had to offer early. This time, this is hard. You know, now it is actually, in my mind, more of a 50-50 fight than it was back then. Providing Kell Brook can somehow negate, walk through that neighbourhood before he eventually gets mugged. Somehow make it out, of the Bronx without getting questioned by somebody that looks like they have ill intentions. And just as you're walking up the road, you see the police who are about, and you have to take the right down the alleyway. If Kell Brook can somehow do that, he has a chance. The problem is, I'm not sure he can. I'm not sure he can. And I know it's one thing visualizing, preparing for a work of nature like Amir Khan. But it's another thing experiencing it. If Khan has still got that speed, Kell Brook won't have seen anything like it in the early rounds. And Amir Khan won't be like Terence Crawford. He won't look to rounds 4 before he tries to land something. He will be looking to land bombs from round 1. If he lands them bombs, I think he could take Kell Brook out. The weight as well. Although it is 149 pounds, I think. Kell Brook did look dishevelled the last time he fought, 147 pounds. So, I could see somebody with a gun to my head right now. Years ago, I would have gone for, and I could be wrong on this. You see, this is the thing with boxing. Never be surprised when you're right when you make a prediction. But never be shocked when you're wrong, because this is boxing. You play other sports. You kick a football. You play tennis. You don't play boxing. You can be wrong big time. And I won't be shocked if I am. But I am just leaning towards Amir Khan stopping Kell Brook. Just leaning towards there. This is with the gun to my head. The other scenario is extremely possible. Kell Brook could survive, get through. But it's if Kell Brook, again, it's if Kell Brook can still do what he could do as the rounds go on. He's took a lot of punishment now. Amir Khan, funny enough, has took a lot of punishment, but he's become used to taking punishment. He's seen when adversity shows up. Khan kind of has been there before. Unless he is knocked out clean, he is kind of used to getting up off the canvas and regrouping. In some way, if you get what I mean. And sort of squeezing through. He doesn't seem... When he gets hurt, he gets too eager to fight the wrong fight, and he gets caught. But Kell Brook, to me, looks like a guy that can't believe that his punch resistance has gone. Like, what happened? I've been able to take this punch, Gennady Golovkin's punch, and now all of a sudden, that thing from Crawford has rocked me to the core. What has happened? That makes a guy truly doubt himself because, again, Khan's been there. Brook has never seen anything like that before. It has come to him at the wrong time, in my opinion. Amir Khan can stop him because he won't land jabs on Kell Brook as Terence Crawford did. Early Khan will put combinations together with power shots. So if Kell Brook's upper body movement is not there early, Khan doesn't let you settle into a fight, you see. He doesn't. It's not chess with him where we're picking off. He isn't a low volume guy. He's high volume early. He wants to take the wind out of your sails, and he'll be aiming to do that. And I get a feeling that he might just succeed. We could see a sensation. If Brook can survive again the early rounds, then it gets tricky. But I have a feeling Khan might do this within 5 rounds. I just get that impression. Years ago it would have been Brook for me, but now it's just slightly Khan. There could be a world of difference, guys, between round 5 and round 6, let's just say. That's the turning point. But I just think Khan might just... Look at Khan against Canelo Alvarez. Early on, Canelo was struggling. He was struggling. And this is Canelo Alvarez, right? If Amir Khan can reproduce some of that, which, again, for 4 or 5 rounds, maybe he can. Unless a ring rust comes in, but there's 1,000,001 scenarios. There's also another scenario. Don't be surprised if there isn't another legendary fighter watching this and thinking for one last massive event against Amir Khan should Khan win. Or whoever wins. That's Pacquiao. He never fought in the UK. If Manny Pacquiao doesn't win the elections in the Philippines, might he not come back for one big, massive event against Khan? He knows Khan, doesn't he? Khan is not technical like you, Dennis Ugas. He gives you chances. Food for thought there. I know Team Khan would not turn down that fight, providing they win. I certainly know Kell Brook wouldn't turn that fight down, providing he wins. There's 1,000,001 scenarios, but it's exciting stuff. It's riveting. It's past its sell-by date, but we all like looking at mouldy food, don't we? There's something great about, sometimes a car crash is horrible, but we have to look, right? And this is one of them scenarios. We are going to look. And this is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. It's Amir Khan to take it for me. I'm out, brothers and sisters.